I'm only child. I'm born in like the smallest town. We don't even have a stoplight. We have a blinking red light, and we had like bring your tractor to school day. My parents were both teachers in my hometown, so it was very, I was in a bubble almost. And as a kid, I was like an overweight kid. I was a chubby kid, and I actually think that when you're a kid, you're kind of like it's a foundation for the rest of your life. I don't think people realize how much things when you're a kid set the tone and the way you think about things. And being overweight, I think it created a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. And then also like insecurity. I do think that, having a chip on your shoulder is just insecurity, but it's leveraged in a positive way, right? Like you're able to utilize that as motivation as opposed to holding you back. And I think that would probably be how you would define insecurity. But so I was chubby as a kid, and to the point where like I distinctly remember having like pre-made excuses for summer pool parties. Like I hated the summer because everybody had birthday parties and pool parties, and I was so embarrassed to take my shirt off. Even in 7th grade, I almost didn't play basketball. Like I told my mom and dad, like I just didn't really want to, all this stuff. But realistically, it was because in tryouts, they did shirts and skins, and everybody would stay after to watch tryouts, and I didn't want people to see me with my shirt off. So I was like, there's a 50-50 chance I'm gonna be super embarrassed, so I'll just not play. Not knowing, I didn't know this happened, but my mom actually went to the coach, which is totally something she would, out of her personality, they didn't get involved much, and went to the coach and asked if, like, to make sure I was on the shirts team, which is pretty cool looking back. I didn't know that until like 2 years ago, but I think that drove me because one, the aesthetic side, but two, I never felt like I was like an A player. I never felt like I was the guy. And my best friend at the time, his name was Lucas. He was like literally 6 foot, could dunk a basketball in 8th grade. And I was always kind of chasing him. And I think that created this momentum and it created urgency. Like I had this urgency to get better and better and better because I was almost chasing him. And so for better or worse, I could probably attribute a lot of my success to him. But, as I started to see a difference, I just became obsessed with strength conditioning. I started lifting in 6th grade, which is earlier than most people. I became obsessed with getting stronger, started to see the differences, and honestly became obsessed with it. One, from if I'm being honest, it was like a confidence thing, like how I viewed myself. And I think people downplay that a lot. Like I don't think people understand, like when you feel good about yourself and confident and you walk in a room, just your energy and demeanor and what you're able to do and communicate is so much more effective. So I think it's sometimes looked down upon to be aesthetically driven, and like care about how people view you. But in a sense, that's a snapshot of your lifestyle and what's important to you and how you allocate your time, right? If you're in shape and you take care of yourself, I think that shows a lot of positives like discipline. So I don't think it's necessarily wrong to be judgmental to some extent. And I think it's okay to also be aesthetically driven, because not necessarily being shallow in why looks are important, but what it represents about what your values are. And so, yeah, I started getting obsessed with that. But I also felt like, I actually had a lot of controversy in high school. My dad was a coach. People didn't want me on varsity. I almost moved schools. And so I always felt like people were kind of up against me for better or for worse. And, when I got the opportunity at Michigan State, so going into my senior year of high school, I thought for sure I was going to play baseball. But after football season, I was just like, there's something I just love about football, like the team environment. Honestly, the aspect of physical pain and injury is actually, I think that's the most powerful piece of football, because there's people that depend on you and actual bad things can happen. Like not losing a game, not scoring points. Like they can get hurt. Like your teammates can get hurt if you don't do your job. And I think it creates a bond unlike any other sport. I think it's very special to football. So after my senior year, I was like, I can't not play football. And so I was dead set to go to a Division III school, like ready to go. So it's May. I'm going to school in September, right? It's May. I'm pretty set on going to Adrian College. It's a Division III school. And then all of a sudden, I get called to the office, which happened a lot. All these Division III schools would come down for whatever reason. And I walked up, and Don Treadwell was standing there, who was Michigan State's offensive coordinator, with the Michigan State polo on, and I was like, what is happening? Like, I mean, I haven't gotten one letter from no Division II offers, no serious letters from any Division I program, and I was begging to get a Division II offer, couldn't have it happen. And so when I went down there, I was like, I had no idea what he was doing there, and he started talking to me about potentially having a walk-on spot available, and my mind was just blown, because people always ask me, was it your dream to go to Michigan State? And it wasn't even like a dream, because it wasn't even in the realm of possibilities. It was like, the most out there thing that, like, you have to be somewhat realistic. And there was no way for me to even get in for that opportunity. I couldn't even get anybody to answer an email, right? So, and nor did I think I deserved to be there, or I was good enough to be there. So he walked in, all of a sudden this conversation starts, and then 2 weeks later, they offered me a walk-on spot. And then my world just got flipped upside down. And I remember, and we still have the chart. So I literally made a pros and cons chart with my parents in Adrian College, Michigan State. And we wrote out all the pros and cons, because it was still a big decision, because, like, I have no business walking into Michigan State, but I've grown up my entire life. My dad went there. My dad used to work in the recruiting office at Michigan State, because he loved Michigan State football so much and sent out letters to recruits. So I grew up going to games. And so all these things lined up, and there was actually an identical amount of pros and cons. Like, they were the exact same, except the one left was, will I regret this? And honestly, that's been the mantra for the rest of my life. Because, in life, my biggest fear is truly leaving something on the table, or not living a full life. And, there's been a lot of the best decisions I've made have stemmed from that philosophy of, when you're 75 years old and, you're sitting around, is there going to be something that you'll be ruminating about, thinking about, that you're going to regret? And if the answer is yes, I think that's a pretty good sign that you need to take a risk and go after that goal. And so that's what I did. But I will say, like, there was a reason why I didn't have a scholarship. Like, when I got there, I mean, when we drove to East Lansing, I was the only child. So obviously my parents are, worried about me. They're the most amazing parents ever, but they cared a ton. The car ride was silent. Like nobody said one word, because we were all so nervous. And I got there, and the first guy I saw was like an all Big Ten left tackle. His name was Pete. Long hair. I mean, the scariest looking dude. And I literally was just like, what am I doing here? And the fourth day of camp, I wanted to quit. I was like, my mom was getting my transcripts around for Adrian College. Like, that's how serious it was. But I think that's kind of like what being a walk-on represents to me, is overcoming fear. I think, like, fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And I think that's the walk-on mentality, is taking the step into that water and realizing once you take a step, it's an inch deep. But I think most people never take that step for whatever reason. It could be literally anything in their life: business, fitness, workouts, relationships even. I think there's a piece of vulnerability that people don't take that step, but that's kind of like the walk-on mentality. But I think if you asked a lot of people who maybe aren't a walk-on what that means, they would probably say it's somebody that believes they can do something and they go and improve it. And that's the case. Like, I think that's the other side of it, is it's putting your face in the fan. That's what we used to say in football. Like, it's going to hurt, this is going to be hard, but you're going to put your face in the fan. So it's putting your face in the fan, and it's also earning everything you get. Because I think entitlement is the enemy to progression. And I think that happens to a lot of people. And so when you have this mentality of having to earn everything you get, or when you walk in a room that nobody owes you anything, it really allows you to understand each step of the process. And it makes you have this grit that isn't necessarily for proving people wrong, but it makes you have this grit in order to make yourself feel fulfilled and understand that you deserve to be where you want to be. I think when people think about imposter syndrome, when you earn it every step of the way, a lot of that dissipates. But I think when you get thrown in the mix, and there's a certain amount of entitlement, or you think you got there because of who you are, or what you've done, then you don't feel good about that, because you know that you've skipped steps. And I don't think that there's any way to skip steps in life. I think there's a process that has to happen, in order to get you to where you want to go. And oftentimes those steps, they're not steps towards that goal, they're steps towards creating the person that needs to be in that spot to achieve those goals, right? Like starting a business, you know, when I was 23 years old, I knew a lot of stuff. I thought I knew a lot of stuff. I thought I knew enough to start a business. And honestly, you probably do. Like there's times in your life when it's not a knowledge thing. It's what type of person it takes to start something like that. Like the confidence and the fearlessness and the communication skills and the ability to connect with people. And I think that's what people don't understand. Like it's not about what you know, it's about who you are. And sometimes those steps, as much as frustrating as they can be, they're there for a reason. But oftentimes you don't know that until you look back in hindsight. But so I walked on and like I said, I was gonna quit the fourth day, but like I said, fear is a mile wide and an inch deep. And once I got there, once I kind of like saw it through for a little bit, just kept showing up, I realized that I think I can do this. And our coach always said, like, you can either be the storm or weather the storm. There's gonna be times in your life when you have to be the storm, and there's times where you gotta weather the storm. And I was just weathering the storm, but I quickly realized that after my first semester, like I could be the storm, like I could do this. And that's what I mean by not skipping steps, is like, you couldn't have told me anything in that first moment that would make me believe those first 4 days that I could do this. But that was just part of the process for me gaining the confidence. Physically, I didn't change that much between a semester, but my mindset completely shifted and I became that person. So then I started, doing pretty well, and I started to believe in myself. So I redshirted my first year, second camp. Coach Antonio came up to me and he's like, we're gonna give you a shot, meaning like, we're gonna give you a shot to start, And before camp, I literally pulled my quad in summer conditioning, and then 2 days before camp, got out of the shower, slipped in a hurdle stretch, and completely tore my rectus femoris, like shredded it in half. Still have a massive bulge on my leg to this day. And I didn't tell anybody because I knew I was gonna have this opportunity. 2 days later, we have our half gasser test, which is our conditioning test, 20 sprints across and back in the field, short rest intervals. Bent over a little bit the whole time, slightly, to alleviate some pain, and I was able to get through it. It's probably the most excruciating hour of my life. Got through the conditioning test because, I have this lifelong goal in front of me that I would literally probably die to achieve. So I'm gonna do whatever it takes. Well, fast forward, the next day I woke up and my leg was black and blue from my hip to my ankle, and I could barely walk. And so I actually got one of the first pair of Normatec boots ever. They were like $10,000 at the time. They just came out, but because there was so much swelling and inflammation that they were worried about blood clots. And so the whole season was scrapped. So redshirt my first year. Second year is that. Third year is I'm doing well. I'm second string, starting on some of our third down packages at defensive end. And a week before our first game, I literally cut in practice and feel something in my knee, just like, poof, and it turns out I broke off a big chunk of cartilage and bone off of my femur. And so knee surgery the next day. And so now here I am sitting redshirted, injured. Now it's going to my second year. So my third year there, I haven't played it down. Meanwhile, everyone in back in my hometown thought I was insane. Where people are running their mouth, acting like I'm not gonna make it, which is so ironic because some of the people that were running their mouth and talking crap about me not being able to play at Michigan State, when I got signed by the Rams, they actually sent me congratulation cards, which I have never forgotten to this day. And I still think about that. And that's a good representation, of how life works. Everybody wants to be your best friend when you're up, but very few people want to pick you back up. So now I'm sitting here, it's also wearing on me, it's my third year and I haven't played. But what sucked was I can do this. I'm good enough to do this, but no one really believed me, because there's nothing to show for it. And the problem is with this is I did not recover. Well, it was probably one of the saddest days. So I had knee surgery the day before our first game, right? Which I thought it was going to be my first time ever playing in Spartan Stadium. I had knee surgery, so the next day I'm like, I want to go to the game, but they didn't want me to, one, stand up that long because of inflammation, two, get hit on the sideline for whatever reason. So I went to the game for warm-ups and then left. And I remember, like, if you've ever been outside of a game, like when it starts, it's almost like a ghost town, right? Everybody's in the game. So I literally remember like crutching away from the field, like could hear the crowd, the game starting, and just like crying because it just felt like everything was going away. Like it was never going to happen. It was like a movie scene, you know, like I'm literally, you know, I could just envision what it looked like, me in my like, you know, team warm-up suit, crutching away in the stadium in the background with my parents. But the problem was is my knee didn't heal well. And for about 6 months, like I couldn't really do anything. There were sharp pains. And I remember walking into the weight room one day and the spring, I was with Kirk Cousins, and I was just like, dude, I don't think I can play. Like, I think I'm gonna have to be done. Like, my knee's just like, I can't even shuffle. Couldn't do anything. Couldn't sprint. And you know, he was an amazing teammate, but he was like, you know, like, kind of like, dang, like that sucks. But at the time, it wasn't a big deal. I've never even played it down, right? So that spring came around, and I'm like, I'm gonna give it a go and practice a couple practices, and if not, like that's probably it. And so I was playing D end, and I ran out the you know, at the end of the first practice, I kind of like bull rushed the tackle, and when I hit him, my leg was extended straight, and I hit him pretty hard, and all of a sudden I hear like a bang in my knee, and I'm like, dude, here we go again. Like, there's another thing. So then I was like, okay. And so, you know, I was pretty sore after practice, went to bed, and I'm just thinking in my head, like, I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna be in so much pain. And I woke up and was pain-free. Like, whatever happened, which now I know what happened because I had to have knee surgery to have it removed, but there's a 2-centimeter chunk of bone just floating around in my knee that they didn't know where that broke off of. And I think when I got hit, it settled in a place that wasn't affecting my knee, and I was able to totally function again, which is wild. So like a 1 in a million chance, but then started doing well. Ended up starting on a third down package that fall, playing, getting a scholarship, and then the next year starting at fullback. And like it all paid off. Like it was the coolest moment. So my senior year, you know, I'm starting, and in my whole life I went to Spartan Stadium, and what they do is they announce the starting lineup, and they always have like their hometown, you know, Todd Anderson, Napoleon, Michigan. So I knew that was happening the first game, and I'm actually technically my mailing address is Jackson, Michigan, and so Napoleon, Michigan is the actual small town I'm from. So I made it a point to go to our media guy and change it to Napoleon, Michigan before my last season. And so during that time, so the game's about to start, so they usually announce those like as we're kind of going off the field, and we were a little delayed. So the whole team went in the locker room, and I just waited in the tunnel. Like I kind of like just hid a little bit, getting yelled at by coaches and stuff to get in the locker room. But I just had to hear my name. I had to hear Todd Anderson, Napoleon, Michigan, because I've been waiting my entire life for this moment. And nobody had known all the stuff, all the people telling me I couldn't do it, and nobody really cares, and that's fine, but I just need it for myself. So if I could bottle that moment up, you know, that's probably like, there's very few times where there's like a finite point of completion, and that was one of the few times I think in my life that will happen. So that was pretty special. But yeah, from there, then all of a sudden, you know, it's like you start playing well. And I remember Le'Veon Bell was like, yo, the Ravens scouts were really asking about you. And I was like, me? Like, that wasn't, still, this is my senior year, and this isn't even in my head at all. And so it's just crazy, like, once you start to believe in yourself, what you can do. And like, I think physical capabilities, or even, you know, mental capabilities in business and life and sports, I actually think the margins of talent are a lot tighter than people realize. But I think the margins of confidence and ability to believe in yourself are vast. And I think that is the biggest difference. I've seen some of the best athletes in the world never play it down, and I've seen some very average athletes have a long NFL career just because the way that they think about themselves, the way they prepare, the way they treat their teammates. Like, people think that doesn't matter, but like, who you are as a human being has a lot to do with how well you do, because people are willing to go above and beyond to put extra time in, develop you, take care of you, look out for you if you care about others and you're a good human. And there's this like level of selflessness these days that did not exist 20 years ago. So yeah, then, you know, it all came crashing down at one point, but you know, that's kind of like how I view being a walk-on as a whole. Like that combination of, you know, putting your face in the fan, being fearless in the presence of fear. Not fearless, I think being fearful, but doing it anyway. And then earning everything you get. You know, not feeling entitled and not being given anything, but just feeling like you need to earn every ounce of success you have. Yeah, that's it. It's a crazy story.